Hello friends, welcome to the Point. In today's session, let's discuss about human capital formation in India. So think about one factor that has made a great difference in the evolution of mankind. And perhaps it is man's capacity to store and transit knowledge, which has been doing through conversation, through songs, and through elaborate lectures. But man, he found out that we need a good deal of training and skill to do things efficiently. So we need the labor skill of an educated person is more than that of uneducated person, and hence the former is able to generate, that is, a skilled person is able to generate more income than an uneducated, unskilled person, and his contribution to economic growth, it is more. So education, it is sought not only as it confers high earning capacity on people, but also for its other highly valued benefits. So it gives one a better social standing and pride. It enables one to make a better choices in life. It provides knowledge to understand the changes taking place in the society, and it also stimulates innovation. What is human capital? Just as a country can turn physical resources like land into physical capital like factories, similarly it can also turn human resources like students into human capital like engineers and doctors. So society needs sufficient human capital in the first place in the form of competent people who have themselves been educated and trained as professors and other professionals. So in other words, we need good human capital to produce other human capitals. So this means that we need investment in human capital to produce more human capital out of human resource. Sources of human capital. So investment in education, it is considered as one of the main sources of human capital. And there are several other sources as well. Investment in health, job training, migration, and information or other sources of human capital formation. So do you have any idea why do your parents spend money on education? So spending money on education by individuals is similar to spending on capital goods by companies with the objective of increasing future profits over a period of time. So like education, health is also considered as an important input for development of a nation as much as it is important for development of an individual. So think, who can work better, a sick person or a person with sound health? A sick laborer without access to medical facilities, he is compelled to abstain from work and there is loss of productivity. And hence expenditure on health is an important source of human capital formation. So we can say that health expenditure directly increases the supply of healthy labor force and it is a source of human capital formation. Human capital and economic growth. Who contributes more to national income, a worker in a factory or a software professional? So we know that the labor skill of an educated person is more than that of an uneducated person, and the educated person generates more income than the uneducated person. Economic growth means the increase in real national income of a country. Naturally, the contribution of educated person to economic growth is more than that of an illiterate person. So if a healthy person could provide uninterrupted labor supply for a longer period of time, then health is also an important factor for economic growth. And therefore, both education and health, along with many other factors like on the job training, job market information and migration, increase an individual's income generating capacity. Human capital and human development. So the two terms, it sounds similar, but there is a difference between them. Human capital, it considers education and health as a means to increase labor productivity, And human development, it is based on the idea that education and health, they are integral to human well-being, because only when people have the ability to read and write and the ability to lead a long and healthy life, they will be able to make other choices which they value. So human capital, it treats human beings as a means to an end, the end being the increase in productivity. In this way, any investment in education and health is unproductive if it does not enhance output of goods and services. And therefore, basic education and basic health, they are important in themselves irrespective of their contribution to labor productivity. In such a way, every individual has a right to get basic education and basic health care. That is, every individual has a right to be literate and lead a healthy life. State of human capital formation in India. So we are going to analyze human capital formation in India, and we have already learned that human capital formation, it is an outcome of investment in education, health, migration, job training and information. And among all this, education and health, they are very important sources of human capital. And we know that ours is a federal country with union government, state governments and local governments. And the Constitution of India, it mentions that functions to be carried out in each level of the government, and accordingly expenditure on both education and health, they are to be carried out simultaneously. So in India, the ministers of education at the union and state level departments of education and various organizations like National Council Education Research and Training, in short it is called as NCERT, and University Grant Commission UGC, and All India Council of Technical Education, that is AICTE, facilitate institutions. This come under the education sector. And similarly, the ministers of health at union and state level departments of health and various organizations like Indian Council for Medical Research, it facilitates institutions which come under the health sector. In developing countries like India, with a large section of the population living below the poverty line, many of us cannot afford to access basic education and healthcare facilities. So a substantial section of our people cannot afford to reach super specialty healthcare and higher education. So when basic education and healthcare is considered as a right of the citizen, then it is essential that government should provide education and health services free of cost. Both the union and state governments, they have been stepping up expenditures in education sectors over the years in order to fulfill the objective of attaining a 100% literacy and considerably increasing the average educational attainment of Indians. Education sector in India. So growth in government expenditure on education. So do you know how much the government spends on education? So this expenditure by the government, it is expressed in two ways: as a percentage of total government expenditure and as a percentage of GDP, that is gross domestic product. The percentage of education expenditure of total government expenditure, it indicates the importance of education in the scheme of things before the government. The percentage of education expenditure of GDP, it expresses how much of our income is being committed to the development of education in the country. So during 1952 to 2014, education expenditure as percentage of total government expenditure increased from 7.92 to 15.7, as a percentage of GDP increased from 0.64 to 4.13. And throughout this period, the increase in education expenditure has not been uniform and there has been irregular rise and fall. Elementary education, it takes a major share of total education expenditure, and the share of higher tertiary education is the least. So on an average, the government spends less on tertiary education. Expenditure per student in tertiary education is higher than that of elementary, and this does not mean that the financial resources it should be transferred from tertiary education to elementary education. So as we expand school education, we need more teachers who are trained in higher educational institutions. Therefore, expenditure on all levels of education should be increased. Future prospects. Education for all, still a distinct dream. Even though literacy rates for both adults as well as youth have increased, but still absolute number of illiterates in India is as much as India's population. So in 1950, when the Constitution of India was passed by the Constituent Assembly, it was noted in the directive principles of the Constitution that the government should provide free and compulsory education for all children up to the age of 14 years within 10 years from the commencement of the Constitution. So if we have achieved this, we would have achieved a 100% literacy by now. Gender equity better than before. So the differences in literacy rates between males and females are narrowing, signifying a positive development in gender equity. Still, the need is to promote education for women in India is eminent for various reasons, such as improving economic independence and social status of women, and also because women education makes a favorable impact on fertility rate and health care of women and children. So therefore, we cannot complacent about the upward movement in the literacy rate. So for this reason, we have to go miles to achieve a 100% adult literacy. Higher education, a few takers. The Indian education pyramid is steep, indicating lesser and lesser number of people reaching the higher education level, and moreover the level of unemployment among educated youth is high. As per NSSO data, in the year 2011 to 12, the rate of unemployment among youth males who studied graduation and above in rural areas was 19%. Their urban counterparts had relatively less level of unemployment at 16%. The most severely affected ones were young rural female graduates, as nearly 30% of them are unemployed. So the economic and social benefits of human capital formation and human development are well known. The union and the state governments in India, they have been earmarking substantial financial outlays for development of education and health sectors. The spread of education and health services across different sectors of society should be ensured so as to simultaneously attain economic growth and equity. India has a rich stock of scientific and technical manpower in the world. The need of the hour is to better its qualitatively and provide such conditions so that they are utilized in our own country itself. See you all in the next session with some other interesting topic. Thank you.